If you're using any MIDI or virtual instrument tracks in your project, chances are you're going to want to convert them to audio. Now, with MIDI tracks using external synthesizers, you will absolutely have to convert those into audio tracks. And to do that, you'll actually have to record the audio outputs of the keyboard, sound module, sampler, or drum machine into the audio inputs of your audio interface that you use with Cubase, and record that audio component while you're playing the MIDI component. And I'm not going to show you how to do that in this particular tutorial because everybody's synthesizers and hardware synths are very different. But what I am going to show you how to do is to convert virtual instruments into audio tracks. Now, you don't absolutely have to do this because the virtual instruments inside of Cubase actually create their own audio to begin with. However, I always like to convert them to audio for backup and archival purposes. That way you always are able to get the sound as it was created by that virtual instrument at any point in time in the future. So what I'm going to do is go to our one MIDI track that we have in our project, and that's in the keys folder. So I'm going to open that up, and you can see that there are two tracks inside of the keys folder, one of which is called EP, which was the actual audio output of the synthesizer that was used to record this part. But at the same time, I recorded the MIDI output from that keyboard. So this MIDI track is actually playing a sound in Halion Sonic SE. To be specific, it's using the Phasing Mark I piano, and we can listen to that piano simply by clicking the solo button on that MIDI track and take a listen to the piano or the electric piano that's being generated by Halion Sonic SE2 from that MIDI information. So that actually is audio information, but we're going to convert that to an actual audio track. So I'm going to close Halion Sonic SE2's control panel, and then I'm going to select this event. And this is a very, very important thing. You're going to select the event or all of the events on that track. If I had multiple events, I could right or control click on the track and then choose Select All Events to make sure that I have all of the events selected. Then I'm going to type P on my computer keyboard, and that's going to place the left and right locators around all of the event's regions from beginning to end. See how the left and right locators in our timeline are now encompassing or being wrapped around that entire event length? So then I can go under the File pull-down menu and select Export, and then choose Audio Mixdown. And what we're going to do is do a channel batch export. So I'm going to enable channel batch export, and then I'm going to capture the output of that virtual instrument. So I'm going to come down to the VST instrument channels, and here's Halion Sonic SE main output. So I'm going to put a checkbox next to that because that's the only track I'm going to be exporting. And then I'm going to give that a name. So I'm going to call this HSSE EP for Halion Sonic SE electric piano. The path is going to be the same as the project folder, so I'm going to choose Use Project Audio folder, and then I'm going to make sure that it's a WAV file in the same sample rate and bit depth of the project, which is 44.1 kilohertz and 32-bit float. And I'm going to make sure that all of these are unchecked because what I want to end up with is a stereo interleaved audio file. And then I'm also going to check a couple of these boxes in the Import into Project settings, mainly the audio track, because we're going to want this creating an audio track during the process because we want it to be in time and right inside of our project window. So when you enable the audio track setting, you also get the pool enabled. You can't select audio track without it automatically selecting the pool. So then I'm going to click the export button, and it's going to take just a moment to export that file as an audio track. So when it's done, it's going to place that audio track at the very, very bottom of our track list. And then when I use my mouse wheel to scroll down the track list, here is that audio track. This is the audio that was generated by the virtual instrument being played by that MIDI event. So now I want to drag this track up into the keys folder. So I'm going to click and drag that up into the keys folder, and you see how when you hover over the folder, you get a green arrow pointing to the left? That's going to pack that track into that folder. And since these keyboard tracks have their own group channel in the MixConsole, I'm going to need to make sure that the audio output of this newly created audio track is actually not going to the stereo out, but rather it's going to the keyboard group channel track. And then lastly, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to take the original track, this MIDI track, and I'm going to unassign it from its MIDI output destination. So I'm going to remove that from Halion-Sonic SE and change the setting to not connected. That way, I won't have to worry about muting the track or disabling or even eliminating the track from my track list, and it just won't play anything because that MIDI track is not connected. However, since we've converted the audio output of the virtual instrument into this audio track, we get the exact same sound as the virtual instrument from which it came. And that way we could layer it with the electric piano sound that came out of the keyboard during the recording. So again, it's not critical that you convert your MIDI tracks to audio, but it just helps to future-proof your project just in case you wanted to edit the audio information at any time in the future.